Appropriations Committee to order. We got a few folks to get through today, and the first one in my stack, Mr. Treasurer, if you're ready, I think we're ready for you.
Good morning. This is Vivek Malik, Missouri State Treasurer. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for your service and your time. The Treasurer's Office had a very good and successful year last year, and I, along with my office, plan for many more milestones to come as I embark on my first full term as a statewide elected official. As Missouri's treasurer, my utmost responsibility is as the Chief Banking and Investment Officer of the state, ensuring steady returns and enhanced performance on the investments for the people of Missouri and their money. With that said, I'm proud to say that the fiscal year to date, the Treasurer's Office has earned over $330 million on investments from the state's fund. None of this would have been possible without the diligent work of my staff, specifically my investment department. So I'm very appreciative of that. The Treasurer's Office, apart from investing and managing state funds, also administers various programs such as MoBucks, which was a huge success last year, and we helped many small businesses and farmers. In January of 2024, the overwhelming demand for MoBucks was evident when we had to close the application portal within just 6 hours. In that time, over $119 million was requested through 142 applications. This response highlighted the need for more capacity, which is why we successfully advocated for an expansion. With the support of the Missouri legislature and your help, we increased the MoBucks cap from $800 million to $1.2 billion. Thanks to the legislature's timely decision to increase the MoBucks cap, our office was able to reopen the portal this last August, where we received an impressive 571 applications totaling over $405 million in requested funds. This overwhelming interest reaffirms the vital role MoBucks plays in providing financial relief, especially in times of high inflation. My office has been working diligently reviewing this record-breaking volume of applications, the largest ever submitted during a single portal period in the program's history. In unclaimed property, we have broken records in returning Missourians their unclaimed money. In 2024, we returned over $56 million, a record. The Most Scholars program, established in August of 2022 through the MESAP initiative, continues to show strong results. In year 2024-25, which is school year, total donations to the program surpassed $23.4 million, representing a 41% increase from the previous year. Additionally, 2,677 students were awarded Most Scholars funding for eligible expenses, marking a 34% increase from the prior year. With the Most 529 plan, we set a target to increase deposits to the $4.5 billion mark by the end of the year and grow the number of accounts. I am happy to report that we have crossed the $4.5 billion mark with over 196,000 accounts. We have worked hard and spent our allocated budget judiciously and maintained a lean operation. We strive to do more with less and save money for the taxpayers of this state. I am grateful to my staff and for the effort they have put into making this a very successful year for us. Thank you. Now, to start the budget, I would like to present the NDIs first, if that's okay. So the first NDI is the STO's statewide pay plan. This NDI details the governor's recommended statewide pay plan as applied to the state treasurer's office, excluding staff for the Missouri Empowerment Scholarship Accounts program for fiscal year 2026. This appropriation includes $150,987 to implement a time of service adjustment plan for full-time state employees. We fully support the recommendation and appreciate the governor's commitment to investing in state employees. And the next NDI is the MESAP statewide pay plan. This NDI details the governor's recommended statewide pay plan as applied to staff for the MESAP program, which is Most Scholars. For 2026, this appropriation includes $11,190 to implement a time of service adjustment plan for full-time state employees. Again, we fully support this recommendation and appreciate Governor's commitment to investing in state employees. The next NDI we have is the MESAP Spending Authority. This is Governor's recommended NDI request, increase spending authority for the Missouri Empowerment Scholarship Accounts Program, Most Scholars. This additional $50 million in spending authority supports the program's expansion, allowing more families to access educational opportunities that meet their needs. I commend Governor Kehoe for his focus on expanding educational opportunities for families in Missouri. As treasurer, I am committed to increasing awareness and participation in the Most Scholars program. If the General Assembly approves the recommended $50 million in funding for the program, the Office of State Treasurer would be pleased to implement it as directed by the legislature.
I'm going to jump in there, Mr. Treasurer, if I may. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here with us this morning. Would you help me out with how much money people have donated to the ESAs right now? Money, or I guess people and businesses, or how much money has actually been donated to these organizations? Or I guess to the ESOs than to do the ESAs.
We are on target to hitting our cap this year, which is a little over $27 million.
Okay, so this year you're anticipating to bring in $27 million from donations.
Correct.
Okay. And then this would be the first time that we are directly appropriating general revenue and doubling it, if you will, of $50 million.
More than doubling, yes.
More than,
Well, 27 into 2 is 54, and 50 million compared to
a little
54.
under, I guess,
Yeah.
yeah. So how much did you take in last year?
As I mentioned in my comments, it was 23.4 million.
23, okay. So now, and this year's 27. Okay, and then you all had shared with me, I had asked this during our supplemental, a list of schools students are attending, how many students. Do you know overall how many students total have received ESAs now?
As I mentioned in my comments before, so far we have 2,677 students who have been awarded scholarships through MESAP program.
Okay, so 2,677
77.
have received vouchers. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. The next item is the NDI for MESAP funding transfer. This item is the funding transfer for the governor's recommended increased spending authority for the Missouri's Empowerment Scholarship Accounts Program, Most Scholars, which is on page 31. And that completes our NDIs. I do not know if the chair would like to get into the core item.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Any other questions from the committee for our treasurer? Does not appear so. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Betsy, you ready? All right, we'll do the judiciary next. Yep, whenever you're ready.
All right, well, good morning. Thank you, Chairman Huff and Vice Chairman Black, and Senators. I wanted to thank you for having us today to present the Judiciary's FY26 budget request. If we have not had the pleasure of meeting in the past, my name is Brent Powell, and I serve on the Missouri Supreme Court. I begin my 2-year term as Chief Justice of the court coinciding with the start of the 2026 fiscal year, which explains why you're stuck with me this morning instead of the marvelous Mary Rhodes Russell, who is our current chief. Here with me today, if I think most of you know, is Betsy Ledgerwood, who is the clerk of the court, the state court administrator, Kathy Lloyd, the deputy court administrator, Rick Morrissey, and the budget manager, Julie Miller, who's a short-timer, maybe her last day today. So you feel free to grill away.
Grill her.
Grill her, right,
Grill
sorry.
her.
As the incoming chief, I did want to make a short introduction here today, not only to support our budget request, but to express my deep respect for what you are invoking to do over the next many days, hours, and months. On behalf of the entire court, I want to express our gratitude for your attention and dedication to the important task at hand. Ms. Ledgerwood and Ms. Miller will provide most of the information about our budget request, but I'd like to draw your attention to a couple of Judiciary's past and current funding requests for just a few minutes of your time. The Judiciary cannot discharge our important duties under the law and maintain the public trust and confidence without the support of the thousands of employees who become the very face of justice for so many who walk into our local courthouses every single day. The Judiciary budget equals less than 2% of the entire general revenue, but the vast majority of our funding, nearly 3/4, pays the salaries of court personnel, your constituents, who live and serve in your local communities throughout the state. More than 2/5 of that amount consists of salaries pursuant to the state constitution and state law. Compensation is key to retaining our valued employees and staff and recruiting high-quality workers, and we sincerely appreciate your support of these vital judicial employees and resources. Last year, you appropriated slightly more than $1.7 million for the expansion of pretrial services programs. These programs are designed to assure that those who present a danger to our communities or a flight risk are detained pretrial in our county jails. For others, these programs improve court appearance rates and divert eligible individuals to substance abuse, behavioral health, treatment court, and other resources to ensure conditions of pretrial release are satisfied, but more importantly, they improve the safety of our communities that they serve. Your appropriation builds on the success from our 2 initial pilot sites, where we have seen higher rates of pretrial release compliance and improved recidivism rates. The expansion of these programs allows for this public safety success to be enjoyed in other counties and judicial circuits across the state. Finally, as Chief Justice Russell commented yesterday in the State of the Judiciary address, the increasing number of children in our juvenile facilities continues to be a challenge. We have too few staff serving too many youths with too few beds available. We look forward to working with you to increase bed capacity in 2 central Missouri detention centers while increasing our security and mental health services and maintaining juvenile detention staff throughout the state. As much as I would love to talk more about these substantive issues, I will graciously leave you in the capable hands of Ms. Betsy Ledgerwood, the clerk of our court, who will be leading the presentation of our budget. And again, thank you very much for your hard work and dedication. It is truly appreciated. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, my strategy with you and the rest of the committee this year, since we have, it looks like, people who have done this before, is to hope to go as fast as I can and be rewarded with more money, okay?
I don't know about the second part, but the first part sounds good.
So if I'm blowing through things or going too fast for you, slow me down, but like I said, that's my strategy. We'll see if
Before
it
you
works.
jump in real quick, Senator May, you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just scrolling, skimming through, and I was looking at the access to justice interpreter services. So we're not providing that right now?
So right now, you are providing that for criminal cases. What we have asked for, and I think it's on our needed but not requested list on page 10, is in civil cases. And where we have an issue there is an executive order that indicates that the state should pay for that, but there is not a state statute like we have with criminal cases. So it's on our needed but not requested list, and we are working on trying to clarify that in statute so we don't feel like that we as a branch are kind of caught between state and federal law.
Very good, thank you.
All right, so if you will begin very quickly, for those of you who don't know, we do have a needed but not requested list. It's things that we find important, but we try to be very strategic and only ask for those things that we think are mandated by law or are really mission critical for us. And on the back, if you're confused, if I mention a circuit or an appellate district where that is, there is a map for you. So I will begin with our new decision items. We break those out first into constitutional mandates. So we are under the same Compensation Commission report that you all are and the statewide office holders are. A few years ago, the language of subject to appropriations was removed by the people of the state, so we feel we have to pay this regardless. It's a 1.7 increase. We're tied to federal judges. There's a 1.7% percent increase, and so the amount that you'll see on page 26 is what we'll have to pay constitutional judges, associate circuits, appellates, and Supreme Court starting July 1st. Did I get that mixed up already? No. All right. So then on page 2, what you will see is there were 4 years where that was not appropriated by the General Assembly, and we paid it anyways. I always had an agreement with Governor Parson once he started making the recommendation that we would not ask for that back pay. There is a new administration. We are asking for it because we had to cover that out of other things that you all like us to spend our money on. I will tell you that if you are inclined to do anything there, it is the appellate courts that are hurt the first and the worst on that. So if we have to start working towards that, or if there needs to be a decision made, I would ask you to look at our appellate courts before the circuits and the Supreme Courts. They're smaller, they have less vacancies, the Western District owns their own building, has more expenses. Moving on to page 3, constitutional mandate with the marijuana initiative petition on page 21. That is, we are asking for less money than we have in the past because those deadlines in the Constitution for when those expungements are supposed to be done has passed. We are only asking for the money for our security systems because we have requirements on how we have to keep those records secure and safe from our other records. So that's what that is. You'll see a core cut in that as well in our core, but that's only because we're not asking for that PS money anymore. Moving on to our statutory provisions on page 28, we have statutes that tie commissioner and other staffs to associate circuits. When we are not given that money is not paid to the commissioners, but this is the amount that would be commensurate with the 1.7 that you see for judges. On page 51 is the court reporter increase. Their salaries are also in statute. Mr. Chairman, I believe you passed a bill a couple of years ago that gives them tenure increases based upon their terms of service, and that amount shows what court reporters who will hit those tenure marks this year, what we need to pay them. If we don't get the money, we will not pay them. Going on to page 23 and 25 collectively, we had a significant electrical issue with one of our server locations. Chief Justice Russell discussed this a bit in her speech yesterday. We understand that state funds are not what they might have even been a few years ago, so we need to replace basically half of our server equipment to have the same level of redundancy, which is what you want. You do not want all your court information sitting in one physical location. So to do that, we're trying to meet the state halfway. We're asking for approximately $3 million in GR, and then we are, if you would give us an appropriations increase out of our court automation fund, we could meet you 1/3 of that way, roughly, with $2 million of just increased authority out of a fund that we already have to replace those. All right, moving on, secure detention staff. You heard Judge Powell talk about that this morning. We made a request to the governor to, we have 2 facilities in mid-Missouri that have the capacity to have increased beds with only staffing and some E&E. We would not have to add to the facilities. It would give us approximately 24 more detention beds. Because of changes to raise the age and how you all have told us to hold certified youth, we are holding them much longer. We do no longer have the bed capacity that we need. So if we could just have this amount of money with the 29 FTE, I believe, to take those facilities up, it would help us greatly. We had asked for some increased funding for staffing to move them up. 19, all right, thank you. 519. To do that, we had asked for money to move our detention officers who we currently have from 1s to 2s. The governor did not request that amount, so that's why you see a differentiation in between our request and what the governor recommended. We had also asked some ability to increase our contractors so we could have more mental health contractors and security contractors in our detention facilities. The governor did not recommend that, but that is something that we need. We asked for contractors in an effort to keep more FTE off the books, is why we have it asked for that way. Our statewide pretrial, as you heard yesterday in the speech, we have been able to expand that. Our goal is to ultimately have that statewide. We are trying to grow it in a way that we grew treatment courts, prove to you with the numbers and the dollars that it works. We do believe that you will see savings. It may not be in our budget, it may be in the amounts that you pay to counties or in folks that go to prison, but other states who are doing this show that it is highly successful. This is not just an assessment of who should be in jail, but it allows for some supervision while they're in the community and also connects them with resources that help them stay out of jail, help them show up to court, and hopefully end a cycle. As we move on to page 39, security and maintenance, we have gotten a significant increase in our, basically, I call it Microsoft because all computers are the same to me, Mr. Chairman, bill for security for a lot of our programs. That happened. We were able to pay it with some ARPA funds in the last year, but I want to be very transparent with you that we have a significant bill that will be due every year. This is not one-time money now. This helps us keep up our security patches, provides the level of security for different hardware and software upgrades that we need to have. It's been recommended by our vendor that we use on this just to keep up with cyber attacks, et cetera, that we have. So that was in there, and that's what we need. Moving on to the Supreme Court, we had 2 requests for our building renovations. One is for the library. We are trying to build a judicial learning center, a museum that helps kids and adult visitors who come to the court every year. While we have great tours given by our law clerks, help them have things that are more interactive, maybe help those students that learn in different ways, have an ability to learn about the third branch of government. That was given to us 1 year, but it was in our bill. We were not allowed to spend it by OA. Last year it was in the House and Senate version, but did not come out of the conference report. I'm sure that was a mistake. And so we are asking for it for a third time. That was not recommended by the governor. There's also a Supreme Court building restoration that the governor recommended out of Capital Commission funds. It's been House Bill 19, which is where we need that. We can't spend it in 1 year. We don't have the capacity to contract, but it would allow us to do some renovations in the building that is 10 years older than the Capitol, so it is it's a little bit hard to keep up. She's persnickety building, but it would also allow us to do some of the historical renovations that to keep it looking accurate for that. So, but like I said, the governor recommended it out of Capital Commission funds. We had a request for a new treatment court commissioner on the 39th. They meet all of our requirements to have a commissioner. That was not recommended by the governor, correct? Correct. All right. Then we offer a pay plan only because we are not included in the PAB pay plan that's done. We are more than happy with what the governor has recommended, but since we have to submit something before we know what he's going to recommend, that represents our numbers. Actually, no, it doesn't, does it? Sorry, don't listen to anything I said there. On page 48, that is the cost to continue for the detention, the 24-hour pay increase that you all gave to separate departments last year. So that's just our cost to continue. My apologies on that. Page 53, Western District Court of Appeals, it would allow them to have a chief deputy clerk. They have someone in a position that they would like to just increase their duties. It would be about $20,000. The other 2 appellate districts have that position, but that was not recommended by the governor. Our pay plan is what I was talking, the governor's recommendation on 55. That's his recommendation, which we are more than happy with. On page 55. What I would ask is there have been years where the General Assembly has taken the judiciary and their employees and not given them the same raise that other state employees got. I understand that that's absolutely in your dominion, but it is demoralizing for my staff out on the front lines to explain that's something they had nothing to do with. So I would just ask you to please treat our folks like you do everyone else at the very least. 21st century workforce is what I was trying to explain earlier. That's what we submit to the governor before we know what he's going to do. You're going to see those on pages 71, 76, and pages 84. So those are our decision items. We had asked for a supplemental, which the governor did not grant, but it's only on those items I've already talked about, our data center replacement and our library and Supreme Court renovations. You would find those if you're interested on pages 86 through 92. And then in our core, I'm just going to quickly make you aware of some core changes. Where you see those are only going to be places where we had one-time dollars last year that are not recommended this year. There was a pilot project wanted by Senator Fitzwater, but the corresponding legislation did not pass. There was a Greene County renovation that was one-time monies that we do not need. And then the P&S that I discussed briefly for the marijuana expungement monies, that we're not using those overtime anymore since the time frame has passed on that. Then the other core reduction you'll see is in treatment courts for medically assisted treatment. It looks like it's taking $1 million cut. It's not. We just had 2 line items for that. We've asked for one of them to be wrapped in with some other programmatic things so we can spend that money on the wraparound services to get folks to the medically assisted treatment. We're fans of it. We use it. But sometimes it's just as important to help them with transportation to get to the shots or the medication as it is to get the medication itself. And with that, Mr. Chairman, if there are no questions?
Wonderful. Any questions from the committee? Does not appear so.
All right, thank you,
Betsy,
sir.
thank you. Judge, thank you. Next up, we got the National Guard.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Brigadier General Charlie Hausman. I'm the Adjutant General for the Missouri National Guard, and I'm proud to be in that role and serving on this amazing team. I brought a few of our team members with us today. I'd like to introduce them quickly. Lieutenant Colonel Berenson, who's head of our facilities. Command Sergeant Major Godsey, who is our Command Senior Enlisted Leader for the Army and Air National Guard. Command Chief Master Sergeant Settle, who is the Senior Enlisted Leader for our Air National Guard. I think in the very back we have Lieutenant Williams, who's our aide who keeps all of us straight. Next to me I have Mr. Nick Humphrey, who's our State Deputy Director. The Missouri National Guard is unique in that we have both a federal and a state mission. We fight and win our nation's wars, and when called upon by Governor Kehoe, we protect the lives and property of Missouri citizens. The Missouri National Guard is predominantly federally funded, receiving over $500 million in federal funds last year. Economic benefits occur through military and civilian pay and allowances, purchasing goods and services, and capital investments in our facilities. The money expended through this community-based organization turns over several times in every segment of the state economy. A multiplier of 1.8 corresponds to nearly $1 billion economic impact that your support of our National Guard provides to Missouri. We're a people-first organization, and therefore our top priority is our members. We're honored to be here representing your Missouri National Guard, consisting of almost 12,000 soldiers, airmen, and civilian employees who live and work in every county across our state. Of those 12,000 members, we employ over 2,700 of them in a full-time status, either as active duty, federal technicians, or state employees. This past year, your soldiers and airmen trained at our 65 armories, readiness centers, and training sites across Missouri. Our readiness build, which this budget supports, ensures that we can accomplish missions here at home when disaster strikes Missouri, missions such as our recent response to winter storms, floods, tornadoes, and support to civil authorities to ensure public order. Our greatest readiness builders are our participation in large-scale training events and providing support to federal missions around the world. In 2024, we had airmen participate in overseas training exercises in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Australia. Our Army soldiers took part in 5 large-scale exercises at various locations across the United States, as well as Panama and Germany. Additionally, we deployed over 620 members in support of 6 operational missions overseas and along the southwest border. We'll deploy another 337 members to perform similar missions in 2025. In addition to our overseas missions, we are federally assigned domestic response missions. One of those missions is our Joint Weapons of Mass Destruction Civil Support Team. This team works behind the scenes at most large public events, such as the PGA Charity Classic in St. Louis, AFC Divisional and Championship games in Kansas City, and other events. Our CST members are using unique equipment to identify threats and advise and assist law enforcement with protecting our citizens from potential terrorist attacks. On a more local level, our counter-drug program has partnered with civilian law enforcement agencies across the state since the early 1990s to provide unique National Guard capabilities to assist in combating the illicit drug epidemic that affects so many of our communities. Last year, we provided 24 embedded criminal analysts and provided aviation support to over 25 agencies, resulting in the seizure of $80 million in illicit drugs, money, and property. Both of these programs provide our members with experiences that help build readiness throughout our formations. You have a very capable National Guard, and we're always striving to transform to make ourselves better. One great example of this is our Aviation Classification and Repair Depot, better known as an AVCRAD, which is based at the Springfield Airport. This regional facility services 14 states and is one of just 4 of these types of units in the nation. It uses cutting-edge technology to repair rather than replace aircraft components. This results in replacement cost avoidance of roughly $95 million a year for the U.S. Army. The AVCRAD also funds 120 state employees through federal pass-through dollars. This facility is one part of the almost $505 million in federal funding that the Missouri National Guard brings to the state annually. Your support of our budget ensures our ability to meet our dual mission that provides for the safety and security of Missouri citizens. We thank you for your time and support. And this morning I have Mr. Nick Humphrey with me. He provides our budget oversight of state funds for the Missouri National Guard. And unless you have questions for me, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Humphrey to go through our 2025 budget requests.
Thank you, General. Any questions from the committee before we have Nick jump into the budget? I don't think so. Appreciate what you all do very much. Nick, whenever you're ready.
Page 3 is the governor's statewide pay plan. Page 10 is the Adjutant General Administration Corps. There should be a loose sheet just in front of page 16 tab. This is just a page we missed. This is the governor's NDI for a pay adjustment for the Adjutant General. Page 16 is required fiscal accountability staff request. This is an NDI that was not recommended by the governor. Page 20 was an NDI for Microsoft 365 from OAITSD. We no longer need that NDI. Was not recommended by the governor. Page 23 is state active duty funding that was recommended by the governor. Page 26 was a public relations specialist, was not recommended by the governor. Page 29 is our National Guard Trust Fund Corps. Page 36 is an NDI. This is for veteran service military honors payments. The department request was for $800,000 for GR. The governor recommended $800,000 spending authority from the trust fund. So I'll mention on that one, we do feel like that the fund will support half of that, and based on that, General Hausman on his first day ordered that the VSOs, the veteran service organizations that get paid for the funeral honors, increased from $100 to $150. Their fee hadn't been increased in about 20 years. They use that money for uniforms, fuel, and actually just before Christmas I was in Springfield. That unit actually puts their money in a fund and bought Christmas for 36 families, so it's very well used there. Page 39 is the USS Missouri Maintenance Corps. Page 44 is the Veterans Recognition Corps. Page 49 is the Adjutant General Field Support Corps. Page 55 is the Armory Rentals Corps. Page 60 is the Missouri Military Family Relief Fund Corps. Page 65 is the Adjutant General Training Site Revolving Fund Corps. Page 70 is the Contract Services Corps. Page 76 is the Moswin Radio Software Upgrade NDI. This was recommended by the governor. Page 17 is an NDI for a federal grant for mailroom, additional mailroom support. That was not recommended by the governor.
Nick, can I ask a quick question on that? I mean, it's all federal money. I mean, do you need it? But can you give me a little background on that?
Sure. There was a federal audit that said that they needed 2 additional people, and they said, and by the way, we're going to give you the money for those 2 additional people. Not really sure why it wasn't.
All right, thanks.
Yep. And page 82 is the Civil Air Patrol Corps, and that concludes our budget.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, General. Any other questions from the committee? Does not appear. Appreciate you being here. I think the only person in the gallery that didn't get introduced was Mr. Stephen Fout sitting there in the back row from tourism. So, Stephen, thanks for being here. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, General. That'll conclude the hearing this morning. Thanks for being here, guys.